Viewer discretion is advised.
When I was a kid, my grandpa used to tell me these stories all the time about where he grew up. He grew up during the Second World War, and because of this, he had to be shipped away to one of those houses where they kept kids to keep them safe. Now, the way I understood it was that all those houses were exactly the same, and all the kids were super depressed because they didn't have their families anymore, and they didn't know what else to do. But the house that my grandpa was sent to, he always used to tell me these stories about the kids there and how they were magical, I guess. There was Millard, who was invisible, Bronwyn, who had super strength, Olive, who was actually super cute because she floated and she had to wear these really big shoes that would keep her on the ground, and Emma, who could make fire in her hands, and I think she was my grandpa's favorite, and they had a little something going on, though he never actually admitted it to me. There was also Miss Peregrine. She was the only adult around, and she was kind of scary, but she definitely took care of all the kids in the house. Of course I believed these stories as a kid. I mean, what sort of kid doesn't want to believe in magic? But as I grew up, I grew out of it, you know? But my grandpa never did. My dad told me that it was just a part of growing old and becoming senile, but I wasn't too sure. Grandpa would call me all the time in the middle of the night screaming about how the monsters were coming to get him, and I always used to think that the monsters he was talking about was the Nazis or something, but he seemed pretty sure otherwise, and it scared me more than anything. One day I went to go over and check on my grandpa because he had called me and he had freaked me out, so I just wanted to make sure he was okay. But when I got there, his house was completely torn apart, and when I went to go look for him, I eventually found him in the woods behind his house, but he was bleeding and lying on the ground and dying. He whispered to me and he told me some things that really didn't make any sense at all, but then he died. Right there. They told me it was wild dogs that did it. That my mind was confused from running on adrenaline, but I could have sworn I saw something else in those woods. Something... I don't know, just something. After that, they set me up with a shrink. And the shrink thought it would be a good idea if I went to the home where my grandpa grew up. So I could understand him, I guess. So I could understand what happened to him. So I did. I hopped on a plane with my dad and we flew across the ocean to Wales. And we found where my grandpa grew up. And I explored it on my own. And I don't want to give too much of it away, but the magical kids and monsters Grandpa always used to talk about, they're real. Run.